Karoline Leavitt demands a mid-flight change. The liberal pilot's refusal shocks everyone. High above the clouds, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt's flight took a perilous turn when a rogue pilot defied her commands, plunging her into a web of media conspiracies and hidden agendas. As the clock ticked down, she had to decide, protect the truth or save her own life. During a tense government flight, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt abruptly demanded a mid-flight diversion. However, the pilot, Captain Mark Thompson, a staunch libertarian, flatly refused. The dramatic confrontation at 30,000 feet stunned the crew and passengers, and the entire heated exchange was recorded, quickly going viral and sparking a fiery debate across America. The flight was supposed to be routine. Karoline Leavitt, a key figure in the administration, had just delivered a powerful speech in Nevada and was heading back to Washington, D.C. on the government plane. Clear skies and a calm cabin atmosphere prevailed until an urgent encrypted message turned everything upside down. Leavitt received intel that a former editor hiding in a remote Iowa town held documents exposing a media-orchestrated smear campaign against the administration. Enemies were hunting her, and the documents would be destroyed within hours. Leavitt sprang up, eyes sharp, and strode to the cockpit. "We need to divert," she said firmly. "To Iowa now. This is more important than anything else." But instead of a "yes, ma'am," a cold response came. Captain Mark Thompson, a respected Air Force veteran, looked Leavitt in the eye and said, "I'm afraid I can't do that, ma'am." The air froze. The White House press secretary's order had just been defied at 30,000 feet. The silence following Thompson's refusal was heavy and suffocating. Secret Service agents subtly shifted their eyes, alert. Staff in the cabin exchanged bewildered glances. Leavitt maintained her composure. "No need to raise my voice, Captain. I am the White House press secretary," she said, her voice steady but commanding. "This is a direct order." Thompson gripped the controls tightly and replied, "I understand, ma'am, but I have other orders." Whispers spread through the cabin. No one had ever witnessed a pilot openly defy a senior official like this. Leavitt narrowed her eyes, sensing something deeper, a profound threat. "Who gave you those orders?" she asked, her voice icy. Thompson hesitated, then said, "I'm not at liberty to say." The atmosphere turned frigid. Sophie, a young aide in the main cabin, gripped her seat, eyes anxious. The crew began to realize this wasn't a policy disagreement. This was a real threat. Leavitt turned to her security team. "Give me the flight log and connect me to the command center immediately." Below the clouds, unseen eyes tracked the government plane's every move. Minutes later, a staffer handed Leavitt a classified report. Its contents stunned her. A security alert with a list of suspected individuals. Captain Mark Thompson's name was on it. Leavitt's face hardened. She glanced toward the cockpit, then turned to her team. "We have a traitor controlling this plane," she said, her voice low but resolute. Gasps rippled through the cabin. Sophie whispered, "Are we in danger?" Leavitt, calm and steadfast, reassured her, "Not today." She stood tall, resolute, and spoke through a secure line. "This is Press Secretary Leavitt. I need diversion protocol. Prepare to neutralize the cockpit if necessary." Suddenly, the plane lurched violently. Not turbulence, not a storm, but a deliberate tilt. Thompson had locked the manual controls. His voice crackled over the intercom. "Sorry, Miss Leavitt, but you're not getting to Iowa or anywhere else." Panic spread through the cabin, but Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. She turned to her team, voice brimming with resolve. "If the pilot is working for the enemy, I will fight with truth, courage, and everything we've got." The battle for control of the plane had begun. As the government jet glided silently through the sky, a covert facility in Seattle monitored its flight data in real time. Among them, a powerful figure, Olivia Harper, smiled coldly. "The plan is working," she whispered. "Leavitt will never reach Iowa." They had paid a hefty sum to Captain Mark Thompson, the government plane's pilot, to stop Leavitt. For them, blocking her meant concealing dark secrets, a plot to manipulate the media, smear the administration, and abuse power. But in Iowa, a courageous whistleblower waited, trusting only Karoline Leavitt with the documents. On the plane, Leavitt's close advisor, Nathan Brooks, whispered, "Ma'am, if we don't reach the whistleblower before sunset, they'll disappear." Leavitt stared at the cockpit door, her voice low but fierce. "Then we'll break that door down if we have to." Outside, the sun was setting. Time was running out, but the resolve of a determined woman was about to confront an entire corrupt network. In the rear cabin, Sophia, Leavitt's young aide, slipped into a quiet corner. She pulled a small necklace from her bag, a gift from her late grandmother, a silent source of strength in tough times. Sophia knelt, whispering, "Please protect Miss Leavitt, protect this country, and expose those who seek to destroy us." Tears rolled down her cheeks as Ethan, a teenage intern, approached and knelt beside her, quietly placing his hand on hers, saying nothing. Elsewhere, the crew gathered, unsure what to do. The government plane was now a battlefield. A veteran flight attendant, Henry Larson, spoke up. "I've served through 3 administrations. Never seen anything like this. But Miss Leavitt, she doesn't run from the dark. She faces it." The air was thick with emotion. Everyone felt it. This was no longer about politics. It was about truth, survival, and a leader willing to sacrifice everything to protect both. In a secure room at the back of the plane, Leavitt was handed an encrypted satellite phone. Static crackled. Then a trembling voice spoke. "Miss Leavitt, it's me. I don't have much time." It was a whistleblower hiding in a small Iowa library. The message was brief but weighty. "The documents are real. Emails, contracts, proof of the smear campaign against the administration. But they're watching me." Leavitt responded, "Hold on, we're coming. But the pilot's been compromised, and you're not safe either." "Do you have a backup plan?" the whistleblower hurriedly asked. "You have to land in Iowa before sunset, or the truth and I will be gone." The call abruptly cut off. Leavitt stared at the silent phone, the moment frozen, the engine's hum fading under the weight of what she just heard. She stood tall, more resolute than ever, and ordered her agents, "Find a way into the cockpit, whatever it takes. We have to land in Iowa. The nation's future depends on it." In that moment, Karoline Leavitt was more than the press secretary. She was a warrior for truth at 30,000 feet. The Secret Service tried to open the cockpit door, but it was locked tight from the inside. "This isn't standard protocol," Agent James Riley whispered. "Even in emergencies, the White House should have override authority, but there was no override." Captain Mark Thompson had prepared thoroughly. Leavitt didn't raise her voice. She only said, "Find another way in now." The crew was stunned, no one daring to speak. A flight attendant whispered to a young agent, "Why is the pilot doing this?" The agent replied, "He's been paid by people who'd rather destroy America than let Leavitt expose the truth. The window of opportunity is closing fast." In the main cabin, Karoline Leavitt clasped the hand of her close aide, Sophia. "We've come too far to let them win," she said, her voice low but resolute. Sophia nodded silently, praying. A young technician, Ethan, stepped forward. "Miss Leavitt, there's a passage through the technical compartment under the cockpit floor." Leavitt looked at him, her gaze unwavering. "Lead the way," she ordered. At 30,000 feet, Karoline was ready to risk everything to protect a truth big enough to save the nation. Beneath the government plane's floor, narrow passages like hidden veins were typically used for wiring maintenance. No senior official had ever set foot here, but now Leavitt, kneeling on cold steel, moved carefully. Following her was Agent James Larson, flashlight in hand. They were mere steps from the cockpit. Above, Captain Mark Thompson, the rogue pilot, adjusted the flight path, deliberately veering east away from Iowa. Over a secret frequency, he communicated, "She can't get there. I control everything." But Thompson had no idea who was right below him. Leavitt's heart pounded, not from fear, but from clear purpose. Each step was a battle against metal and time. Her dress tore, her hands scraped, but she didn't care. Leavitt wasn't fighting for fame. She was fighting for truth, for the whistleblower, for America. Suddenly, they reached a small hatch directly under the cockpit. Larson nodded. "It's thin. We can break through." Leavitt looked up. "Finish this," she said. In that moment, The most powerful woman in the administration wasn't behind a podium, but in the shadows, fighting for a nation's soul. With a sharp crack, the cockpit floor panel burst open. Thompson spun around, startled, and there stood Karoline Leavitt, rising from the floor like an unbreakable warrior. The cockpit air was thick with tension. Leavitt, calm but resolute, declared, "You're not in control here. I am." Thompson reached for the radio, but Larson moved swiftly, restraining him in an instant. "You're under arrest for treason," Larson growled. Thompson was stunned. He'd anticipated resistance, but not like this. Leavitt took the co-pilot's seat, catching her breath. "We're flying to Iowa now," she ordered. Cheers erupted from the main cabin as the news spread. They had regained control. Leavitt gazed out at the clouds, whispering, "We're not done yet." Below in Iowa, the sun touched the horizon, time slipping away. But Leavitt was in command, and the fight for truth was about to land where it needed to. She placed her hand on the co-pilot's controls, not an aviation expert, but unmatched in focus and leadership. The co-pilot, now in charge, whispered, "We'll enter Iowa airspace in 22 minutes. Leavitt nodded. "Get us there, no mistakes." Thompson, handcuffed in the cockpit corner, was silent but seething. The plan orchestrated by powerful forces had collapsed. He had bet everything to stop Leavitt and lost. At a nearby library, whistleblower Anna Harper, hands trembling, clutched a USB drive hidden in a book. Time was running out, darkness closing in, but Leavitt was closing in too. Suddenly, a voice crackled over the radio. "Government aircraft, this is Des Moines Control. You are not cleared to land. Divert immediately." The co-pilot looked at Leavitt, confused. "This isn't right. We were cleared." Leavitt responded, calm but firm, "Maintain course." The voice repeated, "This is an emergency directive. Do not land." Agent Ryan Carter stepped forward, voice tense. "Ma'am, this is interference. They're trying to delay us." Karoline Leavitt's eyes locked on the flight path display. "They're out of ways to stop us," she said, then turned to staffer. "Connect me to the Iowa governor's private line." Minutes later, Leavitt was speaking directly with Governor Clara Evans. "Governor, this is Karoline Leavitt. I'm landing in your state in 12 minutes with evidence of a media conspiracy." After a brief silence, Evans' voice came through, making Leavitt's fist clench. "Miss Leavitt, I trust you. Cedar Valley Airport is ready." As the call ended, Leavitt looked out the window. The truth lay just below the clouds. The government plane began its descent, and she stepped into the main cabin. Everyone stood, some with tears in their eyes, some with hands over their hearts. Not because she was a press secretary, but because of what she'd done, risking everything to protect the truth. Leavitt didn't give a long speech. She only said, "We're almost there. Thank you for trusting me." Sophia, her close aide, hugged her tightly, voice trembling. "I was so scared." Leavitt replied softly, "I know, but we don't back down when the country needs us." Ethan, a young intern, approached holding a sign pen Sophia had used to pray. "Miss Leavitt, this is for the whistleblower. I want them to have it." Leavitt nodded, her eyes misting. "That's worth more than you know." Outside, the small Cedar Valley runway came into view, but as the plane approached, a black truck sped toward the library in town, where the whistleblower waited with everything at stake. On board, everyone held their breath, hoping they weren't too late. The plane's wheels hit the ground with a jolt at Cedar Valley Airport. The local runway had never seen such a scene, an unscheduled landing under heavy security. Fire trucks and state police lined the tarmac. As the door opened, Karoline Leavitt stepped out into the golden sunset, flanked by Secret Service agents. Sophia and Ethan followed. Less than 10 miles away, in a small library tucked among trees, whistleblower Anna Harper, a former journalist, clutched the USB drive hidden in a book. Her hands shook as she heard tires screech outside. Through the stained glass window, Anna saw the black truck stop. Not federal agents, not press, but men in suits with guns. She knelt, whispering, "Please don't let it end like this." Then, in the distance, a helicopter's roar grew louder. The government plane hadn't just brought Leavitt. It brought hope, The whistleblower's in danger. Agent Carter shouted, holding live satellite imagery from the library. We'll be too late if we don't move now. Leavitt hesitated. Get me there fast. A convoy of unmarked SUVs tore through Iowa's rural roads, trees blurring in the sunset. Leavitt sat in the front passenger seat, refusing the back. They think they can scare the whistleblower into silence, she said, fists clenched. Not today. At the library, Anna Harper backed into a corner as the door creaked open. Strangers stepped in, flashlights sweeping across the bookshelves. One whispered, "Hand over the USB. You don't need to know more." Anna, voice trembling but resolute, replied, "America will know she's coming." At that moment, a loud crash rang out. The main door burst open. Secret Service agents storming in like lightning.